All was going well with my cheap Chinese mini-excavator until...
And it's spraying.
See where I get our newest asset operational again, this time on the Burnouts and Rotorblades YouTube channel. Welcome to the Burnouts and Rotorblades YouTube channel. Let's go do something awesome. I picked up this 0-hour Agrotech MX12RX hydraulic shovel from the equipment auction for an astonishingly low $3,000. I bought some other stuff, which we'll cover in other videos, but after a quick $6 flight to Dallas and an Uber ride from this awesome guy to the auction yard, we loaded up a completely untested and new to us dump trailer and truck for the 6-hour ride back to San Antonio. What could go wrong, right? With the only technical guidance coming from poorly assembled Chinese instruction manuals and disjointed tribal knowledge passed through Facebook groups, I completely disregarded the post-purchase instructions and immediately let my son play with it.
He just pushed it away.
With only 2 hours in the hobs, it started trying to return all of the hydraulic fluid back to the earth via one of the track drive motors.
That's probably not good.
After loosening up the track adjuster and pulling off the track, I started to notice some assembly issues that even had the chickens scratching their heads. This whole thing right here is not bolted down by anything. Yep, no grease zerk there either. If you're trying to think about the right way to do it, it's probably snug plus one cancellation. Much better than the factory done with not snug at all. Alright, I did not do anything to this except for take the nut off, and it looks like not press fit on, so that guy just came off by hand. Oh, the keyway is coming out with it. So there's where the oil's gonna be coming from because of the internal seal. Let's fire it up and do a little test. At this point, my working theory about the cause is that the internal seal blows out when the dust cover is unsupported by a loose track drive sprocket. We'll check that out more whenever we get it off and get it into the garage. The drive motor in question is the BMER-2-350 wheel drive motor made by some factory in China. Disassembly starts on the back side by finding a surprisingly consistent torque on all of the housing bolts. Now we're going to play a little game called How Much Hydraulic Fluid is Really in the Pump. My guess is a lot. Look, I was right. I win. What did you win, Johnny? Cleaning up after yourself. That's what he wins. Let's go backwards real quick. It was at this point I decided to mark the sections so I can make sure to orient them the same way. With my paint marks applied, the back half comes back off right before the shaft popped out with a very satisfying. Oh wow, look at all that corrosion. If your dust seal is still partially installed, removing it when the shaft is already out is a lot simpler. Removing the C-clip is not necessary, unless your bearing, shown here, is damaged. Right in there is the failure. So it looks like it'll just squish out a little bit of the seal. Alright, so we'll work on getting this bearing right here out. I happen to already own one of these Harbor Freight engine supports, so it makes sense that the cheap Chinese engine support washer should fit in my cheap Chinese track drive motor perfectly. I ground off the edges of a second washer to pass through the bearing cage. My makeshift bearing puller did a great job, but finally being able to use that one piece of 3-inch exhaust I've been holding onto for over a year, that felt even better. Does not look like it damaged it in any way. HK5020. And then we have these three here. This is the star of the show and why we're all here. Those numbers after the HVPS are the measurements of the seal in millimeters, but there isn't a part number on it, nor are there any part numbers on any of the other seals or parts in this motor for that matter. This has resulted in dozens of internet groups being flooded with help requests as their BMER drive motors try to irrigate countless backyard projects with hydraulic fluid. The measurements are convenient though.
There are a ton of seal recommendations all over the internet, and after a little bit of internet searching, I was able to come up with a part number for a BMER-2 hydraulic seal kit.
Even though it's a brand new motor with 2 hours on the entire piece of equipment, you can see there's tons of junk already in here that needs to come out. So we'll clean this up here in a minute.
Unfortunately, it wasn't quite right because the most important seals in the kit were wrong. I was unaware that there were different shaft sizes associated with this motor. So now here's real-time Brian for a little further explanation.
All right, so we have all these different options here for which shaft we have as far as this motor, the BMR 350. So we are at a T31 1.5 tapered here. This is what we got going on. We come over here and we can see that this is in fact 1.5 inches in diameter.
You'd be perfectly reasonable in thinking the manufacturer's website would lead you to a manual with the relevant information. That's not the case with these cheap Chinese excavators. The manufacturer's manual has no part numbers, and the drive motor depicted is not even close to the one being disassembled on our workbench. In the time it took me to make my morning coffee, Google found this PDF from Dynamic Fluid Components, which I've linked below. After tearing everything apart and verifying the components, this is the motor we've been looking for. I wanted to get the corrosion and trash out of the motors before setting them back in a bath of hydraulic fluid while we wait for the right seals to come in. Thanks to the magic of editing, this weeks-long process of waiting for the right parts to come in will be just a few minutes for you. But in reality, this wait resulted in the excavator being nearly completely disassembled for numerous other modifications, which are either already on the channel or coming soon, depending on when you're watching this.
I have it torn apart for some other things we'll get to. We're gonna add oil cooler and stuff. That'll be in a later video. So I was inspecting these guys here, and I noticed that they have like some sharp lips around here, and these are, you know, the ones that ride up against that seal inside. So I'm just going to take some Scotch-Brite, nothing crazy, and just kind of like hit the edges to knock off any potential burrs. You can actually feel how rough it is sliding, you know, with the Scotch-Brite. I can feel how rough it is right around the inside of that. It may or may not be a factor, but we're going to give it every chance at success that we can. Feels a lot less threatening now.
After realizing I've ordered the incorrect seal kit, I went to my local hydraulic supply shop to let the professionals use their giant O-ring sizing butt plug to determine the correct size. None of which they had in stock because the seals are not all round and they're metric, things that are not common, I've learned. I decided to go to the source. I called Dynamic Fluid Components Inc., located right in South Carolina, to figure out why their seal kit didn't fit. Now, for those of you who were eagle-eyed, you'll notice that I ordered a kit for 1 1/4 inch shaft when the shaft that I have is an impressive 1/4 inch thicker.
So that's the seal kit we're going to need to order. Not the 1 1/4 inch, which Surplus Supply has. That one won't fit.
Good job. After the representative at Dynamic helped me figure that out, he put me in contact with one of their dealers to order the correct kit with a part number of BMER-2 Seal Kit 1.5 inch. Yeah, I wish I would have realized that before I ordered 2 of the wrong kits. With everything cleaned and all the rough edges smoothed over with a Scotch-Brite pad, I put everything in a hydraulic oil bath to prevent corrosion while we locate a seal.
64414 for the 1.5 inch. Let's go ahead and measure all these, make sure they're going to fit before we start assembling.
I measured every single seal that came out of the motor and compared those measurements to what was in the BMR 1.5 inch seal kit from Fluid Dynamics. The housing seals all fit perfectly, and I had no doubt, even though they were slightly different shape than what came out of the motor, that they would work. Even the replacement dust seal was the right size. After several rebuilds, none of them have leaked. Spoiler alert, this didn't go as smoothly as I would have hoped because the internal seal from this kit was still not correct.
Well, unfortunately, doesn't quite fit. See that gap around the back of the seal?
Alright, it's time to see what is inside of this guy. Out of all the seals that have been suggested by the internet, none had looked anywhere near the right profile. There's the profile. I ordered the closest internet recommended seal and decided I'd try another experiment to settle a little dispute I had in my head. The idea is, since the dust seal is held in pretty loosely, it could use a collar to hold it in more securely. For this attempt at assembling the motor, I used an SKF seal recommended by the internet and assembled the drive motor using the illustrated parts breakdown from the Fluid Dynamics motor because the internals looked identical. I included a link below to the illustrated parts breakdown and videoed the assembly here. The most difficult part has to do with the check balls, but if you look closely at the IPB, you can get a pretty good idea of their orientation. It may be clear to you by now that I don't have a press. It is probably not that expensive to get a Chinesium model from Harbor Freight, but I was able to reliably do most of this work with pieces of all-thread nuts and washers I already had laying around. A vise and a big clamp came in handy too. The goal was to avoid buying a big new tool while also trying all the internet recommended solutions in addition to a couple of my own homebrew solutions, which you'll see coming up here in a second.
So somebody mentioned that on their shaft, it was really chewed up right here, but I can feel no sharp edges, so this must not have been made on a Monday or a Friday.
With my experimental dust seal holder downer installed, it's time to head outside and test.
I love this thing. It's a wrench, it's a hammer, it's whatever you need it to be. Oh, okay, turn the pump. That's cool. All right, it's in. Let's start it.
With that epic failure, it was time to go back in search of another seal. Along with a group of other dedicated MX12 owners, I spent hours scouring the internet for seals that might work. And again, I opened up my wallet to an online hydraulic parts supplier only to have these three seals show up.
We're going to start off with this one, which is the Timken 240319. And yeah, the fact that it just falls in there, that's not going to work. We should be pressing something. That one didn't work. This one's the exact same thing.
that 14869, they sent me the exact same thing, so that's $7 wasted. Next thing we got is the Amazon special. It looks a little different. 50107-05. Once again, that one just kind of seats in there, so that's not going to work. Too small for the bore. And I believe, yep, too small for the shaft. So the Amazon one, the 3548 by 5.5, that's not going to work for the shaft or for the inside of the motor. Is the John Deere M127198. See if that one goes in. Well, it's promising because it doesn't just straight up fall down in the hole. John Deere M127198. Let's get some measurements.
Well, that didn't go well.
I had pretty much had it with rebuilding this pump by this point. I had been down for weeks, and there was a bunch of talk about replacement motors that could be found on eBay. So I searched for a BMER 350 motor with a T41 hydraulic shaft, and with a click, my wallet was once again much lighter. I ordered two because, well, foreshadowing. Out of the box, everything looked promising, and I only needed to swap over the fittings, but first I wanted to make sure that it would fit the sprocket. This is the actual one that I bought for my machine, and it worked out great. Once again, foreshadowing.
Alright, she's been sitting for a little bit, so let's see what happens. Fired right up, that's awesome. Hydraulics back on. This is going to be left track. Nice and easy and slow. Oh yeah. That seal didn't come out. Nice. Time to put it together. Well, the second motor seal made it a whole, 0.2 hours before it just completely took a dump. Literally one day. One day.
And I wasn't even beating on it. Like, not really. This time, the right track comes off by loosening the track adjuster lock nut and then running the track tensioner bolt all the way out. Once the track is off the ground, you can cheat by removing the drive sprocket from the track drive motor instead of trying to pry the track off. Either way is not hard with the machine off the ground. Taking the sprocket off is, lazier. For this video, though, I opted to show how easy the track comes off with the idler pulley pushed all the way on. I did, however, remove the castellated nut, last touch by the factory, entirely by hand. There are a lot of loose items to check out on these Chinese excavators, so check out my other YouTube videos for the wild things that I've found loose so far. With the track completely off, we can go get the sprocket out of the way with the little gentle persuasion before disconnecting the hydraulic lines and the 4 bolts holding the track drive motor to the frame.
There's that classic seal pop right there.
The thing I love about this little excavator is the fact that I'm doing this part in my air-conditioned 2-car garage after taking the 8 bolts that hold the canopy off. I can't begin to describe how nice it is to finally get a part out of the box and have it fit after so many replacement seal failures.
The interesting thing I've learned about comparing these is how this stack is in line and this stack is not in line, which I don't think it means anything, but it's interesting.
These eBay motors are a great option, but there is a cheaper option. Thanks to the dedication of a few clever individuals that have worked with the seal manufacturer to produce a seal that actually fits these machines for a very reasonable price. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the seals before this video came out, but that video will be on this channel right up here. I do highly recommend getting a line wrench set. It helps prevent rounding off the line nuts and helps get them nice and tight. The sprocket nut should be snug plus one cancellation. As for the track tension, it's more of a feeling. However, this clip should give you a pretty good idea of the correct tension. Too loose is annoying because the track will continue to fall off, and too tight you'll start destroying components. So err on the side of just loose enough not to fall off.
Track's on.
So tighten the jam nut to German torque, Guten tight, or adopt this general torque specification document from the Navy or, in this case, the FAA. I do want to point out how prone to tipping over these small excavators are, and my son experienced this.
Whoa! No! Whoa! 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 Hey, don't jump off. It's okay. Remember, I said if anything goes wrong, just let go. All right? Hey, it's okay. Lift it back up. There you go. You're good.
If this video helped you, please give me a thumbs up, maybe consider subscribing, and throw a comment down below because it really helps out with the algorithm. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.